Hello, my name's Paul Holstead, and I'm the HR Director supporting AB Carval, a US headquartered asset manager across our office locations in Europe, Middle East, and Asia. I've been a member of the Smart Working Work Group of the Diversity Project for just over 2 years now. Broadly, the aims of the Smart Working Work Group are to promote flexible and progressive work practices that support employees throughout all life events and that enable inclusive, diverse and equitable work cultures across the investment industry. For me, being an effective ally at work really consists of 3 main ingredients. The first is to be approachable and be available. So genuinely willing and wanting to listen and to learn about the other person's situation and the challenges that they may be facing. Secondly, it's about empathy, being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes, even though you may well not have ever had their experience or be able to have their experience that they may be facing. And thirdly, it's about collaboration, being able to constructively work together to explore options for best managing the challenges or the situation that the other person is facing. Today, I'd like to share a personal experience of being an ally to my work colleague, Julia, who back in 2021 was preparing to return to work after a period of maternity leave.
Hi, my name is Julia. I'm a senior associate in the human capital team based in London, and I've been working very closely with Paul for the past 5 years. I'm also a member of the Smart Working Workstream at the Diversity Project, and I sit on the executive committee of AB Carval's DEI committee.
So, Julia, can you tell us a little bit about the challenges that you were facing as you were thinking about returning to work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've now been back at work for a year. I found out I was pregnant about a week before the first lockdown was announced and had not seen my colleagues in nearly 2 years. The world of work changed drastically during the pandemic, and we collectively found ourselves facing many uncertainties linked to COVID and having to navigate a new world of work. Transitioning back into work after a period of maternity leave was probably one of my biggest challenges so far. I was out of the flow of the office life since the beginning of the pandemic, and I was returning as a different person, as a parent with new priorities, new responsibilities and concerns as well. As a first-time parent, I found it very difficult to plan for my return because I just didn't know what to expect, to be honest. And I found it very overwhelming to think about how I'd be able to juggle it all. When you become a parent, everything is changing, from your practical day-to-day schedule to your new responsibilities as a parent, and really also figuring out your new identity as a working mother. Adding to the pressure, obviously, sleepless nights make it physically and psychologically a really, really big adjustment. On top of that, my partner and I are not from the UK, so our families live abroad, and we didn't have a support system here for emergency childcare. So that was really a big challenge and concern of mine as I was planning to return and picturing myself back at work. My daughter's nursery settling in week coincided with my first week at work, which in hindsight, I probably wouldn't do again. But I had very little information about how her settling in week would really look like until probably 2 weeks before I started working. And I received the actual schedule about a week before I started working. So I planned to return to the office full time. I was not sure whether this was actually going to work or not, but I thought I'd give it a go and try it. And really, I would say my biggest challenges and concerns around returning to work was also my new commute, because I had moved further out of the city, and how I would organize drop-offs and pickups together with my partner.
Great. And what were some of the things that I did, Julia, that you found to be most helpful as you faced those challenges?
Yeah, so Paul and I had various touch points whilst I was on maternity leave. And Paul updated me throughout on the plans of the organization to enable hybrid working on a trial basis at that time. In the midst of the pandemic, it was still very unclear how this was going to be implemented. There was a lot of question marks. We didn't know when the office was going to reopen. So we were really planning, but without knowing when this would actually, what this would actually look like by the time that I would come back from maternity leave. So a couple of weeks before I came back to work, Paul and I had various conversations, and we planned together how my first weeks would look like. Paul was very supportive and understanding of my concerns around managing my daughter's settling in week schedule, and we agreed that we would begin work on a kind of reduced schedule to allow me to ease back into my role, whilst being able to be present and at home to support my daughter through her settling in week. So having moved further away from the city during the pandemic, I was really concerned about my new commute and whether I would be able to manage the logistics of pickups and drop-off. It was important to me to have some level of flexibility around my work hours as well, especially at the beginning when it was still very difficult to figure out schedules and my daughter was sick almost every week as well. And Paul and I had, various touch points also throughout my first few days to make sure that things were going okay. I was lucky enough as well to have a long overlap with my maternity cover, and we had discussed this ahead of time to make sure that this would allow for a smooth transition back into my role, and projects would be handed over back to me slowly on a phased basis as well throughout my first month back. So, Paul, it was great to have you as I came back into my role, but also because you're an advocate of flexible work. You are a member of the Smart Working work stream, and you're a champion of flexibility within the organization as well. So it was great to feel understood, and to have the support from you to allow me to work through my new schedule. So Paul showed, real genuine compassion and empathy on more difficult days as well, where I had to unexpectedly leave the office and deal with nursery calls and illnesses. He provided me with the support and guidance as I navigated through my first year back at work. And that was really crucial in helping me feel comfortable again in my two new roles as a working mother. So yeah.
Thank you, Julia. Hopefully that's demonstrated how we in that situation work together as allies to help Julia transition back to the workplace. And really to conclude, we just wanted to say how important it is not just to be ready to support people, but to be really present and active, to reach out, to show your support and availability. Julia mentioned compassion, being willing to listen, but unless those colleagues around know that you're available to provide that support, then there is a more limited opportunity of actually being effective with allyship. So it's about being present and active and demonstrating those behaviors in the workplace.